Welcome friends to another r/NuclearRevenge video. Today we've got a crazy stalking story. But first, make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons down below so you never miss any of my daily videos. That said, our story of the day is Coworker Stalks Me for years, so I got him arrested. I constantly think back on the story and how it may make me look. I'm interested in how different people might have reacted to such a situation. Okay, so basically I went off to college around 12 years ago, currently 30 years old. I studied computer science. It was a great time. I remember I first got an internship in the summer after sophomore year at a small startup in Mountain View. I was understandably so very excited for the whole work experience. I know how important early field work is, especially for computer science. So I had very high hopes for the whole jig. I had an intern position, but it still paid really well, which was great. At said company, I had the opportunity of meeting many other interns doing basically the same as I was. Most of them were a little older than me, around 24 to 26, and had just passed their junior year. Not surprisingly, I was one of the only female interns. It was a total of like 8 people, I believe, but just 2 females, me and this other girl. It was a pretty chill group and the overall experience was great. There were 2 guys in particular that were very flirty with me. I obviously enjoyed the attention because who wouldn't? But I was just too busy to even fantasize about the idea of getting into a relationship. I did in fact let it be known to them that I wasn't interested because moral code, I guess? Despite these attempts at setting limits, one of the guys was very insistent and continued to flirt with me. At one point, it does get uncomfortable to have to deal with such a thing, especially when I wanted to get the most out of my internship, and having this guy all over my business wasn't ideal. The internship was around 10 weeks in total, so like 2 months and a little more. After I was done with that, I proceeded to live my life normally again. Going back to college and not having a job was a big pain, but it is what it is. Fast forward to the next summer, I was once again looking for an internship. I was a decently good student with a 3.9 GPA, so getting job offers at that point for a CS student isn't the hardest thing in the world. What did surprise me a little bit is that I actually got an offer from the same place I'd done my previous internship at. They even offered considerably better pay, and it was an extended 16-week contract. I knew about the company, and I obviously held a soft spot for it in my heart, so I ended up choosing it without giving the idea a second thought. There were some familiar faces when I came back, which was nice to see. However, what did surprise me a lot was the guy I mentioned earlier was also there. At first, I didn't know how to feel about it. It's not like he ever caused any major inconveniences for me. He just didn't make me feel very comfortable. But hey, a whole year gone by, so maybe he'd moved on. Maybe he had a girlfriend now or something. I remember him coming up to me on the first day and immediately starting a conversation. I was very nervous about how he would act. We'll call him Parker from now on. He actually apologized for his behavior during the previous summer, which was a big sigh of relief for me, as that on its own shows a sense of maturity and self-awareness of his actions. This allowed me to not view Parker as a creep, but just as someone who had a crush on me or something, and had understandably moved on from it. No offense taken, no bad blood, we shall move on. We talked for a bit that day, as we never really got the chance to know each other. He had actually graduated already, and apparently was actually working for the company now, not just as an intern. 2 of my friends were also doing the internship here, so it was great to have people you know around. We would hang out during breaks and after work most of the time. And as time passed, I actually started to get along with Parker rather well. So he slowly started showing up in said plans along with my other friends. My friends found the whole last summer situation with Parker and then finding him again in the same company pretty funny, but they didn't have any problems with him being around. I remember one day as I was talking with him that he casually mentioned something about his girlfriend. I knew it. Not like I was jealous or anything, but it's not like you treat someone the way he did for a whole summer and then just act like it was nothing out of nowhere. I obviously asked more questions about Parker's girlfriend, as it was the first time the topic had even come up after like a whole month of already working together. He didn't go into too much detail, which is fine, although I do love me some gossip, so that was disappointing. I would always tell him to take his girlfriend to one of our plans. After all, it doesn't bother me to have some more girls around. Spending so much time with just guys can get into your head pretty easily, or maybe that's just me, but that's besides the point. To this, he would always say that she was more of an introvert, and the stuff we usually did, partying, clubs, drinks after work, etc., was not her kind of deal. He always mentioned that I reminded him of her though, which was odd, especially considering our background. Time flew by, and once again, my time at the company had come to an end. I enjoyed this experience a lot more, as I'd already had an idea of what I was doing there, plus the work environment felt a lot more comfortable. And, well, I made a pretty good friend in Parker, which was a massive improvement from last time. We had each other's socials and everything, so after all, we managed to keep in touch as I moved back on to college. I graduated a year later and was finally set free from boring old college. I'd garnered enough work experience to land a job at a pretty big tech company with its headquarters in New York City. I'd lived my entire life on the West Coast, so moving to the East was kinda nerve-wracking. I got a whole bunch of sign-in bonuses though, and my initial wage was very good. So I managed to live a pretty comfortable life. After a long time being single, I finally met someone I connected with deeply and had a pretty good relationship with said person. This was all happening around 2015 to 2016, so keep in mind, Instagram was already a pretty big thing. I obviously bragged my boyfriend around on social media. Now, you might be a little confused as to why I'm bringing this up. Like I said earlier, me and Parker had each other's socials. We followed each other. We would have short conversations from now and then, casual small talk with someone you were once acquaintances with. As I started to brag my boyfriend around more regularly, Parker started to become more and more present in my DMs. Odd. Time went by, and this trend continued. And it now makes me sound paranoid or something, but you have to understand Parker was really something back in his flirty days. I don't want to go into too much detail, but he never really took no's for an answer. I respect the effort and all, but there's a big difference between, oh yeah, I like this girl, and although she doesn't seem interested in me at the moment, I'll try and show her what I can offer with my great personality and overall likability, and see if that changes her mind. And how do you not like me? Please like me. I'm being so nice to you. Why don't you see that I'm being nice to you? You should be attracted to me just as I am to you, and my actions should have changed your mind by now. You might think I'm overreacting, but Parker seriously creeped me out at times. He followed me around a lot, was casually just in the right place at the right time to be able to spend time with me, would be waiting outside the building as I came into work even though he had a different schedule than I did, and constantly stopped me from doing my work just so I could give him some attention. Once again, you might think I'm crazy, but there's no way that it was all just a coincidence. I saw a pretty clear trend. And although I stated my intentions and had said no to multiple date invitations, he kept insisting. Some people really just don't know what no means. I was with said boyfriend for around 4 years. At one point in the relationship, I even decided to block Parker, as he once again seemed like he was coming back to his weirdo stage, and I was way too happy to even be bothered by his behavior. I was glad that, thanks to the distance between us, with the simple click of a button, I would no longer have to worry about him and what his opinion on my relationship was. Or so I thought. But yeah, it was a mutual breakup in 2019. We were both very busy with work. He was starting a business at the time, and didn't give each other the time or attention we believed we deserved. It was fine. I wasn't too stressed about it, as it definitely wasn't a messy breakup. I proceeded to delete all the pictures I had of him on my Instagram feed, although we remained friends. This was a really weird stage in my life. I didn't feel great about my job anymore, and the New York City life eventually got pretty annoying compared to what it was like in Cali. The weather was cold, the traffic was the worst most of the time, and I just felt stuck in general. I was ready for a change in my lifestyle. So I did what any responsible adult would do. I quit my job and proceeded to go on a well-deserved vacation through Europe. You should have seen my face as I received an email from the same company I worked at in my college days. My jaw dropped, and as intimidating as the whole idea of going back was, it would have been childish for me to not give it some thought at least. They were offering move-in bonuses, a slightly better salary, and plus, it just made so much sense for me to go back. But I got a bad vibe from it, probably just a gut feeling. I asked some friends what they thought, and they obviously said yes. I wanted some change, and right there was my ticket to it. Don't get me wrong, New York was great. $1 pizza, the subway, people being overly rude, but honest compared to the yes men in Cali. Ignoring my intuition, I accepted the offer and started the moving process immediately. Being single after such a long time was starting to take a toll on me. You get so used to having someone to talk to about these sorts of decisions. I pretended like it was nothing, but I knew deep inside I felt rather lonely. I settled in Mountain View after a long, chaotic moving process. Probably one of the biggest pains in the butt I've ever had to deal with. Moving from one side of the country to the other is no joke. I had a meeting with the local HR rep from the company. They'd actually grown a decent bit in the last 5 years since I'd left. They expanded to multiple cities, including Seattle and Austin. It felt good to know that I was there during their early stage. We just met up at a nearby coffee shop to discuss the terms for my contract and what the job was going to be like and blah blah blah. I got the position of a junior full-stack developer, which was a pretty big deal. I assumed they trusted me with such a job because of the knowledge I already had of the company, and they were probably satisfied with what I did for them as an intern. Plus 5 years of experience at another company is definitely a valuable point for employers. However, I was still a little surprised about the fact that I got such a position, considering these are usually given to people with many more years of experience. And not to demerit myself, but I'm not the type of software engineer who's constantly working on side projects and growing their portfolio by the day. I'm good at what I do, and that's about it. To this day, I still remember the exact moment when I went to my first day at work here. I parked my car across the street in the company's employee parking lot, and as I was walking across the road, my eyes immediately targeted what seemed to be a familiar face. It can't be. No way it's him, I thought to myself. Can you try and guess who was standing right outside the entrance of the building? None other than Parker himself. Holy, this guy really still works here? Like I said earlier, I had him blocked on social media after all that happened during my relationship with my previous boyfriend. I didn't go into detail on what Parker was DMing me, but basically it seemed as though he didn't think my boyfriend was treating me right or something. Whenever we had our casual small talk, he would always ask me about him, the things he did, how he treated me, what our day-to-day life was like. I remember the exact message he once sent. I would have never have done such a thing to you, haha. Yeah, was this what my gut feeling was all about? The bad vibe I was getting from this job offer? I walked up to the entrance, and he obviously also recognized me. It seemed as though he was very excited to see me. And I would have been very excited to see him as well if it wasn't for our awkward social media back and forths a few years ago. He actually continued to work for the same company after all these years, which doesn't seem too crazy, but it still seemed insane that this was the third time where we coincidentally bumped into each other at the same company despite the years in between. I tried to put everything I knew aside and treat him like the good friends we once were. He walked me into the building and gave me a quick tour of the place, as a lot of things had been changed. It looked like time didn't treat him too well, as he was only 31 years old at the time, but he looked pretty beat up. That wasn't any of my business though, so I didn't try and find out what the reason was for it. As if I wasn't already surprised with all that going on, Parker was going to be my boss. He was the senior full-stack developer, and I was going to be working by his side for most of the time. I felt chills running through my body as soon as he told me that he actually already knew that I was hired by the company to work along his side. And that's the reason why he was waiting for me at the entrance of the building. That may mean that our initial encounter was no coincidence, but I went from not having any idea of what Parker had been up to for the last 3 years to now knowing that I will be working with him. It's a lot of information to process in such a short amount of time. I put in the effort to have a good conversation with him because being paranoid of him all the time while I worked there was just not going to be a good idea. He asked me out to dinner that day. It's fine, you two are going to spend so much time together now, it's probably best to have a good relationship with him. Plus, he still hasn't asked about my previous relationship or anything, so maybe he's once again a mature man. I was thinking to myself as I accepted his proposal. I never actually lived in Mountain View, as when I was working as an intern, I still had to travel 45 minutes from the town where I lived. I still had very vague memories of the place, so I didn't mind having someone show me around the place, and plus I had no friends at the time, which meant some company wasn't the worst thing in the world. I initially thought that our dinner plan would have been something casual, as to get to talk and catch up with each other's lives. This wasn't the case, or at least it sure as heck didn't seem like it. We went to a pretty fancy lakeside restaurant. I dressed nicely by Parker's request, but I didn't expect us to be going to such a nice place, especially for our first time going out in a while. It felt more like a romantic dinner rather than just two friends going out. I mentioned my discomfort to him as we talked over dinner, to which he seemed a little annoyed by. "Oh, but you're single right now. Why would it be an issue for us to go out for dinner?" Because this isn't just going out for dinner? It was still too early for me to try and judge his true intentions, as he had shown he was capable of changing in the past. I told him that as I was just settling in, dating was something I was not interested in. I said this without any context, just so that he wouldn't take any offense to it. I didn't say, "No, Parker, I don't want to be in a relationship with you." And technically, it's not like I was lying. After all, I was just settling into this new lifestyle, and a relationship can just end up being way too chaotic with so many things going on at the same time. He laughed and said, "You'll be looking for someone eventually." I'm not the kind of person who thinks they pick who they love, but rather it comes naturally to them. And clearly, after so many years of knowing him, that idea had yet to cross my mind. He paid for the whole thing, even though I insisted on paying for my food, as I didn't want him to feel like I owed him one. We walked by the lake, which was pretty nice at least. I tried talking about what work was going to be like for the two of us, but he kept asking questions that were clearly looking for a specific response from me. Eventually, he ended up asking about my ex-boyfriend. I knew it was going to happen, but I really wanted to avoid the subject at all costs. Not because it was a sensitive subject to me or anything, but rather I knew the intentions behind such a question. I told him a very brief summary of why we broke up, and that was it. Like I said, avoid the subject at all costs. He even asked me why I blocked him on Instagram, to which I responded by saying that my boyfriend was getting jealous because of me texting him so frequently. That was probably a massive mistake on my behalf, as it somehow gave him high hopes that I was constantly talking about the great Parker to my boyfriend or something. It got pretty late and he drove me home. I was pleasantly surprised when he played lots of songs that I really liked in the car. I found it funny that we at least had a similar taste in music. It made the ride back home a lot less awkward as we jammed the heck out. I was the one skipping through the songs on his phone, and what happened next was about to make everything a lot worse. Out of nowhere, an Instagram notification popped up. I'm not sure if you guys know about this, but when you have more than one account logged in on your Instagram app, the first part of the notification will show the username for who the notification is meant. I didn't remember what his Instagram handle was, but it sure wasn't that one. It was some random generic name. I took note of it to check out once I was alone, and deleted the notification just in case he'd realize I'd seen it once he got his phone back. We eventually arrived at my house. He told me some really sweet words about how nice it was to see me after all these years and how excited he is to work with me. I said something around the same lines so as not to sound rude or anything. After all, he did just drive me like 25 minutes straight to my house. I feel bad for Parker as he really did seem like a gentleman at heart, but I know enough about him now to say with confidence that that's not who he truly is. As soon as I closed my apartment door, I opened Instagram and looked for said username. Drumroll please, he actually followed me on that account. I had honestly never realized said account followed me, so I also had no clue on how long he'd been following me for. He also clearly kept this as a secret. As I mentioned, the handle was a really generic name. Him trying to see what I'm up to after blocking him, perhaps? The week after, as I was about to leave my house to work, Parker was right outside my building in his car. He evidently didn't live here, neither did he tell me that he would pick me up to go to work, so I was very confused. He honked his car as I walked outside, just so I had no excuse to miss him, or at least that's what I assumed. I walked up to him as he jokingly said that carpooling is a great way to combat pollution. Funny, Parker. I still had a few doubts about this mysterious Instagram account, so having this one-to-one time with him was rather useful. We once again jammed out on our way to work. I actually told him that I was sorry for blocking him on Instagram in the past and started following him once again. He was very excited to hear that. While on the subject, I also directly asked him if he knew generic Instagram account name, as the profile had shown up in those recommendations you get when you follow someone, and it said they already followed me. You could clearly tell his face changed for a quick second. He made up a story saying it was just a friend of his who had worked at the same company a few years ago. Now, I know my memory isn't the greatest, but that name really didn't even ring a bell. Not only that, but why would he be signed into said friend's account despite the fact that he was at the company a few years ago? And why would said friend follow me of all people? This man was clearly hiding something. I didn't make a big deal about it as he would realize that I knew he was up to something. We got to work and continued with our day as if nothing happened. Since he picked me up in the morning, despite the fact that I didn't need the ride, I told him it was only fair for him to drop me off again. I'm not sure if this guy is some sort of genius, but he managed to get back to my apartment building without even using Google Maps or anything. Maybe that's just a millennial thing to say, but I always need my trusty navigator to get me around. I continued to dig into this account when I got home. I checked some of my older photos on Instagram and who had liked them. The surprises really just don't stop coming. I was able to track down the first picture he'd liked with this account. I posted said picture a whole 3 years ago, so he'd followed me in this secret account for at least 3 years now. This man is so dedicated. I'm not surprised why he does so good at work now. Time went by, and it seemed as though that the question in our morning car ride might have scared him a bit, as he now kept his stalking strictly to work now. That was until one night, when I was just chilling in my apartment, I received a notification from my Ring doorbell about some movement outside. I checked to see the live feed on the app, but there was no one. I kept watching just because it's not common for me to get these sorts of notifications unless someone is actually outside my door. And much to my surprise, I realized that a very familiar person walked by. I didn't want to overreact, as you couldn't really tell who this person was. But then, said person walked by again, and again, and again. It was clear to me who this was. I don't even need to say it at this point. Everything until this point was pretty harmless. But at no point did I tell him what my floor, let alone what my apartment number was. I had become so used to this behavior from Parker, but this actually left me scared crapless. I saved this footage just in case because this was really getting too far. Once it seemed like he'd stopped walking around, I decided to go downstairs and ask the doorman about it. He said he recognized him, but apparently he never stated what he was doing as he just walked right by. He also mentioned that he remembered seeing this person walk into the building before. What? That makes it 2 times in which Parker comes into my apartment building without me even knowing it. God knows what the purpose of it even was. He didn't even try and knock or anything, he was just walking around. Perhaps waiting to casually bump into me, as it has happened before in different places. This shook me to the core. The next day I asked to speak to the HR team as this was really getting out of hand, and I was legitimately scared at this point. When I spoke to them, I told them about the whole situation. All our encounters and his strange behaviors when I was working as an intern and now too. The lady was shocked to know about all this. The 2 details that make everything leading up to this point make sense, but also lead to the situation reaching its breaking point, came as follows. First of all, the lady was pretty scared to know about Parker's behaviors, as before he got hired for the job, they obviously had to do a background check on him. With that, they found out that he had already had a restraining order from an incident that had happened way back when he was still in college. They obviously didn't give me all of the details, but yeah, he already had basically been reported to the police for being a stalker. And the second detail, which was the main reason why the lady was confused at all of this, is that apparently Parker was the one who tipped the hiring team to contact me. They needed someone for the position, and as the senior developer, he had some say in who they could hire. So the whole reason why I'm even here is all because of him. She assumed we had a good relationship, and given my previous work experience at the company, they considered it would allow for better productivity to have us as a team. I was basically shaking at this point. Call me crazy, but here's my theory. Parker never really got over me. I doubted if he even had a girlfriend back in the day at this point, since I never actually got to see her. Either she was very introverted, Parker didn't make their relationship public, or he just straight up lied to me so he could get closer to me, as that clearly made me trust him more. That's not all. After I went to New York, he continued his strange stalker behavior, especially knowing that I had a boyfriend and couldn't be his. After getting blocked, he created the other Instagram account, which he followed me on for years. As my relationship was so public, after we ended it, Parker saw an opportunity to get me back. Now that I was single and without some sort of attachment to the city, he tipped the team to send me an offer, and his master plan was successful after all. I still don't know how he got my apartment number, but clearly he has a way to find out what I'm doing and when I'm doing it. Are you not satisfied yet? I would qualify my taste in music as underground. I know, I'm cool like that. But the idea that he even tried to use this music taste to his advantage by playing these songs whenever I would go in the car with him didn't seem too far out of reach. I almost had a nervous breakdown at that moment. I couldn't believe that he had gone to such an extent just to be with me. I freaked out and ran off. As I went out, Parker got a hold of me. I yelled at him. I was terrified. I tried to walk away, but he insisted on talking to me. I kept yelling at him. I didn't want anything to do with him. He pulled me towards him, grabbed the back of my shirt, and held my arm very tightly. He had gone full sicko mode. I still remember his exact words to this day. I know you better than anyone else in the world. I'll take care of you. We're meant to be together. You need to realize that no one else will love you as I do. My head was about to explode at that moment, and I passed out. When I woke up, I was sitting next to him in his car. He tried explaining his motives, as it was obvious that me speaking to the HR team had something to do with him. He's not stupid. I knew he still wasn't going to take no for an answer, so I tried to cooperate with him until I could safely get out of his car and seek help. As soon as I had the chance, I ran back inside and screamed for anyone to just keep him away from me. I was done with his BS. I called the police. This had to stop already. That was basically the dramatic part of the story. It really was a terrifying experience, and although many may think I was just crazy, you gotta understand that there are way too many coincidences for me to be making this stuff up. I explained my side of the story to the cops, all from the beginning. They eventually spoke to the HR team as well, since I told them about the information that was given to me by the lady earlier that day. They filed a report and arrested Parker for investigation. I finally felt at peace knowing that he wouldn't be able to follow me around. Turns out he didn't have just one, but two previous incidents where he was either abusive or stalked other women. And although those events happened years and years ago, they still got the girls to testify against him once again. They had previously only set restraining orders against him, but since this was now a recurring crime, because yeah, stalking is considered a federal crime, he eventually ended up getting jail time for his actions. There's a law in the California Penal Code that states that after 3 strikes, your prison time could be of at least 25 years. So that was Parker. I think it sucks that great people like him have to destroy their entire lives just for the approval of a female partner, but he got what he deserved. A few months after, I requested to be transferred to a different location, as my experience in Mountain View was not great after all. I currently am still working for this company and am getting better with time, as this was a pretty traumatic experience for me. Parker is still serving jail time. Is there any part of you that feels bad for Parker in any form? Like for how their life went, that they ended up feeling the need to follow these women around and creep on them? Or to be blunt, is there no remorse at all to be had for a creep like him? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. That said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy revenge story, check out the video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out the video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.